You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour. And backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another driver's edition of the Beyond the Wheel podcast. And in this episode, Kenny is going to talk about his time at the new Overland Expo in California. And we're also going to talk about how many campsites we might lose access to over this summer, as well as some other RV news. So instead of delaying with excess jibber jabber, let's just get right into the episode.
Hey, Sean. Hey, everybody. How you doing, Sean?
Good, Kenny. So tell us about your time at the Overland Expo in California.
Yeah, so this is the first year for this Overland Expo SoCal. I was there working the Winnebago booth. Like I said, this is the first time that this location has come up. I know from being at that show, apparently this has been a show that has been asked for a very long time that Overland was able to provide this year. So it was held in Costa Mesa, California. It was just a 2-day show, which is different than most of the other shows, which are typically 3-day show. But I'm wondering if that's just because it was the first show and they were trying to feel it out to see just how many people would actually show up for it. A lot of people showed up for it, to say the least. They had an attendance for just the 2 days of 19,500 attendees. Again, and that's only over a 2-day period. They actually said that this was their largest turnout for a first-time location for an Overland Expo. So they're very happy. Emerald is the company that owns the Overland Expo. They're very happy with the turnout. They're already going to set it up for next year, and vendors are already kind of securing their spot for next year. That's just how big of a success it was. I mean, this show, at the time of this recording, it's just ended maybe 2-3 weeks ago at most. They had 303 vendors for this show, which is on par for their other venues. I'm actually got a couple notes here from like last year from Overland East. Their attendance for their show is 14,500, and that's over a 3-day period. So you're talking about a 5,000 attendee difference. 5,000 more people more attended the one in SoCal in only a 2-day period rather than a 3-day period. And then the one in East has 236 vendors. So that 303 is pretty much on par. Overland West, I think, holds about 350 vendors, somewhere around there. I would say the one downside that I noticed from this SoCal location is the camping area. A big part of the Overland Expo is that you camp right on property. You kind of literally roll out of bed and you're in the show. This had that experience to it, but it was very small. This was at the OC Fairgrounds, and they just didn't have the space, I guess, for camping and vendors. And I wonder what their feedback was on that. If maybe they will cut down on the amount of vendors. Well, I guess that's where they make their money, though, is the vendors. But I wonder if they'll cut down on the amount of vendors to open up a little bit more space for the camping. I want to say camping here at this event was probably a third of what you would have at an East or an Overland West. It was a considerable amount decrease of the amount of people camping on property. I'm curious to see if they make any changes to that at all and try to expand on their camping a little bit.
And you felt like you were busier during the show, too.
Yeah, not only the attendance being higher, the fact that it was just 2 days, I feel like this was like a show that, you blink and you missed it. People showed up. People were there walking those fairgrounds all day long because you only had a 2-day period to see everything. So you had to stay your full day to catch it all. 300 vendors in a 2-day period. The show is similar to like an RV show would be. So we do have vehicles for touring. It's time consuming to go in, check out rooftop tents, check out the RVs. Yeah, I feel like once people were on property, they stayed on the property all day long. I had a line of people to tour the 2 Winnebagos that we had there. It was literally I would show somebody or show a family, they'd get out of the way, and then somebody else was right there just waiting for them to get done so that I could show. Then I show the next group of people, and that was just from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. on, or maybe it was 9 to 5 on Saturday, and then 9 to 4 on Sunday, and it was busy the whole time. Just it was just a revolving door, I guess you could say, of people wanting to take a tour and be interested in what's new with Winnebago. But and I was talking to people. I like doing my own little personal surveys. So I would ask people, are you camping on property? Are you here for the full event, or are you just here on a day pass? And most of the people I talked to were not camping there, which was going to be obvious to me because there wasn't that much camping on property. But what was surprising to me that most people were just there for the day. People drove about an hour to 2 hours away just for the day, did their tour, and then drove back home. Not a lot of people camped actually in the area. And that was the same for Sunday too. Just about everybody I spoke to on Sunday was just there for Sunday. I will mention that Sunday's tickets are a little cheaper than Saturday's tickets, I guess just because you lose the 1 hour. It was, surprising to me just how many people didn't actually camp in the area or get a campground in the area. But again, that could just be because the limitation on camping on property, most people were there on a day pass.
Was the camping area full?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
it was to me, I mean, if I was camping at that location, I would have actually liked to seen them restrict the amount of campers that they allowed. When you're at like the Overland West or in the Virginia location at Overland East or any of them really, you have a nice little patch of space between you and your neighbor typically. That wasn't the case here. Most of the people show up in either rooftop tents or a van. That's pretty typical for the Overland Expos. And they were parked really close to each other. I think me personally, if I would have spent money for the camping experience, and to be that close to my neighbor, I don't know how happy I would have been with paying because I know it's expensive to camp on property. It's so convenient. You wake up and you just roll right into the show. I would say everywhere else, it's great to camp on property. I was camping on property, but I was in a vendor location. I expect that to be a parking space, and that's literally what we have. We're parked in like parking spaces. We're not hanging out at our rig because we're working the show. So they expect us to park close together. So we're just on tarmac and parked literally in parking spaces right next to each other. I felt like that's how the camping experience was for these guys, except the only difference was they were parked on grass. I would
Right.
imagine that they must have sold out that camping section pretty fast just because of how small it was.
And it is a pretty dense area, like Costa Mesa. That area is pretty dense with people too, I think. So that's probably another reason why they had big crowds.
Yep. I think that played a lot into why it was so busy. Driving into the event, I said to Sabrina, I was like, man, this doesn't look like an area for an Overland Expo because usually it's out well, Sean, you've been to the one in Virginia. It's kind of like out in the middle of nowhere in this big field. This was a big field, but in a dense populated city. And I would imagine that had a lot to do with just how busy this was. They also said that 70% of the attendees were new to Overland Expo. So they got a really large first timers, I guess, people new to the market, people just new to the idea of overlanding. So I think this was a big deal for them because they just opened up to a really large new audience for them.
In light of your working at expos and events, Kenny, where are you headed to next?
I'll be at the Sea Otter Classic, which is a biking and camping show. I'll be there April 10th to the 13th, and that's in Monterey, California. If you've never been to that show, I recommend checking that show out. That's a pretty fun event. It's kind of a mixture between like an overland, an RVing, and a biking event all rolled into one. The show takes place at the WeatherTech Raceway, and the show is down in the center of the raceway. So as you're like strolling around checking out the vendors and RVs and stuff like that, the bike races that are going on are happening all around you. You see the bikers just like they're driving like right past you. It's a really interesting, immersive. I would say it's a very immersive show. It's easy to chat with the racers. They're walking around at the show. It's easy to catch up with them and ask them about their bike setups. Like I said, it's really neat. They have downhill racing. They have track racing. I know James. James has been on the show from the Fit RV. He has competed in these events in the past. I know he's going to be at this event this time. I'm wondering if he'll be there competing or not. I'll have to ask him. But yeah, it's a really fun, different event.
Yeah, and for those of you not familiar with the WeatherTech Raceway, it's not like an oval raceway. It's more like a road course with lots of turns and uphill, downhill kind of thing. It's not just a flat round track.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's big too. It's a large track. I'm not sure what else Sean, maybe you know what else races on that. It must be more than just bikes because it's a big track.
Yeah, I think the IMSA cars race there, so like the
Okay.
Porsches and those
Uh,
kind of cars.
it's a cool layout. It's a big show. I remember the last year was the first time I was there, and it took me a long time to find the Winnebago booth. I remember I get there a day before and try to like map out the whole area, figure out where I'm supposed to be so I can be on time and everything. And I remember it taking me forever to find the booth. I guess because that track is kind of twisted, it's not like everything's just in like straight lines and on a grid type of thing. I remember at one point, I was, like, walking behind the food vendors, and I was like, "I don't even think I'm supposed to be back here." But it's a fun show. Definitely a fun show. Check it out. It's in, the WeatherTech Raceway, April 10th to the 13th. I remember last year being really nice weather, and the area was really very nice too. Very clean, well kept, tons of restaurants, outdoor squares and parks and water views. It's a really nice location. It's a fun area to visit. Like you could go spend maybe 2 days at the show and then another 3 days probably just exploring the area.
Yeah, Monterey is a nice area. Julie and I have been there in the RV. It was really nice. Kind of expensive, but really nice.
I would imagine. We were just there for the show and we left. We didn't really get any time. We went to a sushi place one night and we went to a Mexican restaurant one night. And that's really all. You've worked shows before, Sean. You're tired.
Yeah.
You're tired after the show. We really didn't do much of anything except for work the show, get dinner, and then go to bed.
Now, a couple of interesting news things, Kenny, and I think they're kind of contradictory when you think about them. The first one, I see that you saw this on RV Business, and I actually saw it this morning on their partner company, Woodall's. RV shipments were up 6% for February compared to last year. And overall, shipments were up between 12 and 13% for 2025 so far as compared to 2024, which still baffles me because like all you hear is the economy is so terrible and inflation and interest rates are definitely high. And I don't know that many people that pay cash for an RV. Most people finance them. I don't get it, but I'm glad for the RV industry.
Yeah. Well, it does say, Sean, and this is something that you pointed out to me, I think, a couple days earlier, was that it's really driven by the towable section, right? The motor homes are actually down by 20%, but travel trailers are up 6% overall, but it's the people in the towable department, which I guess doesn't always mean this, but I feel like a lot of first time buyers are towables and usually a bumper pool, something that's maybe relatively affordable. Like there's still maybe $10,000 towables that you can purchase. If you already own your truck, now you're RVing for 10 grand, 12 grand in. And if you're financing that over 15 years, you're probably only talking a payment of like maybe $80 a month,
That's
which
true.
people look at that and be like, oh, that's cheaper than my phone.
That's
When they stretch it out to a 15, because that's a very popular question for me when I'm working these expos and shows. Even though I'm not in sales, I'm marketing, people always are asking me, how long can I finance an RV for? They say, I've heard rumors that you can do 15 or 20 years. And I just have to let them know, like, I'm with marketing, I'm not with sales, but I can connect you with a salesperson. The salesperson comes over and it confirms that they do 15-year loans on these RVs. I'm like, "Oh my goodness." I'm always like, I don't know. I almost don't wanna tell the person that because I think that sounds to me personally, I think that sounds terrible because it is a depreciating asset, and you don't carry a loan for that long of a period of time, I think is a recipe for disaster. And that's the loan that they're looking for. Usually when somebody is asking me, they want to know, can they push it to a 15-year period or even more? Can they push it to a 20-year period and get those payments as low as possible? So I bet you that's what's driving the market currently is relatively reasonable $10,000 to $15,000 travel trailer over a 15-year period of time.
Yeah, I wonder if they have the data on what is actually being purchased.
Somebody must.
Somebody must, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
see RV Business, has it listed that it's 32,871 units. Somebody's got the breakdown of what those units are because they know if it's a motorhome or towable. Why couldn't they take it one step further and say, well, it's bumper pools, it's fifth wheels, I'm sure.
And a price range, like it's between
Yeah.
10 and 20,000 or
Sean, I bet you they even know who's financing and who's buying in cash. I would imagine it's a lot of financing, but I could be wrong. Maybe people do save up for a $10,000 to $15,000. I mean, yeah, maybe they do. I don't know. That's still a lot of money, but maybe people are saving. I doubt it. I bet you most people are still still doing the financing. But overall, I agree with you, Sean. It's a good sign. Overall, we're still up. Sales are still going strong for the RV industry. New people are still getting involved in RVing. New people are joining the RV community and sending themselves out there to explore the United States. But it kind of leads us into this our next topic. It might be tough for them to explore the United States and find campsites. I mean, it's great that the RV industry is growing, but at the same time, we're losing campsites, we're losing resources for camping. This was something that you had found, Sean. Actually, you brought it to my attention.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I first saw an article, I don't even remember where it was because it was reported in so many places that I saw it a bunch of times, but the Corps of Engineer campgrounds in Pennsylvania said that they might have to close for the summer or from this point forward because they don't have the staffing to man the campgrounds. So they were talking about closing down 425 campsites in Pennsylvania. And this was all because of they're blaming the Doge cuts on not being able to staff these campsites. Then I said, well, if it's happening in Pennsylvania, it's probably happening other places. So I did some digging, and it looks like overall the US Forest Service is saying they're going to have to cut out 4,000 campsites across the US because of the staffing issue. National Park Service is going to have to take out a bunch of campsites as well because of these cuts, and they're losing like over 1,000 employees. I know typically there's camp hosts that volunteer at these places, but they're not doing all of the work. They need staffing, like paid staffing to be able to keep these campgrounds open. So I mean, we're looking at probably more than 5,000 campsites that may not be available for this year's big camping season, which is sort of frightening because number one, they're public campgrounds and Corps of Engineer parks. I know they're like super difficult to get in because
Mm.
people really enjoy going to them and you have a lot of nature around you. It's not like a private campground, which may have a lot of amenities like swimming pools and things like that. These are like just the campsite and nature. And of course, Corps of Engineers, it's a waterway of some type. A lot of people are going to be disappointed if they can't go to those sites if they're closed. And that also means that reservations at the places that are open are going to be difficult to get. It's really a lose lose for RVers and tent campers, I guess, this season.
Yeah, and I also want to add too, Sean, that I think the places that maybe are not losing campsites that are going to try to remain in full, I guess, full capacity. I wonder if you'll get a watered down experience if you don't have the park rangers there to ask questions about the environment, to ask questions about the animals because they just won't have the time for you. So I wonder if even the places that maybe aren't closing, the ones that are staying open, I wonder if your experience won't be as well received as maybe it would have been a few years ago. And this is coming at a time too, Sean, that it's not like the national parks were overstaffed or even fully staffed. In fact, before these cutbacks, they were already down 15% of their workforce. So they were already operating at a bit of a deficit, I guess you could say, as far as workforce goes. So this is just really just an extra blow to them. I know for me, my closest national park is Saguaro National Park. They've already shut down their visitor center on Mondays, which I guess in big grand scheme of things, that doesn't sound terrible, but it's just the start. Not having that visitor center, which is also kind of like a little museum, is kind of how you get your first introduction to that national park. And without having that introduction, I feel as if you just kind of go in, you probably drive the loop, you look around and you leave. And you don't really know anything about the history of the area. You didn't really speak to any of the park rangers. And I feel like you lose a lot of that immersiveness and that national park experience. Now, of course, I guess you know that in advance that they're going to be closed on Monday, so now you show up on a Tuesday. You just try try to schedule your plans a little differently and make sure that when you do arrive, that the office is actually open.
Yeah, and even very popular national parks like Yosemite are talking about having to close down their campgrounds, and that's huge, huge. Not only for people that wanna visit, but for the towns around those national parks, losing a lot of money from the tourists.
Yeah, is it Yosemite, Sean, that is removing their park reservation?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now it was tough to get in the park before when you had a reservation, to try to now the chances of you probably just popping in and just being I don't know. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a disaster. Yeah, I shouldn't laugh, but what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, you're getting more people into the RVing. They're probably excited about their first trip, and then they go out and find out just how difficult it is, maybe to find a campground or enjoy the experience, and they're not getting the same experience that we had a few years ago when we entered. We actually got an RV at a pretty lucky time, I think. It was before the boom. So Ray and I used to be able to just kind of pop in anywhere and get a spot. I don't think that's really the case anymore.
Yeah, so I guess the key takeaway with all these closures is if you wanna go somewhere for any of the holiday weekends, you better make your reservations now.
Yeah, I think the key will be just what you said, Sean, just planning. Lots and lots of planning. I don't think you're gonna go out and just kinda wing it anymore, especially if your idea is to visit a national park or a state forest or any of these government-funded, locations. The one thing I'll say, I don't know if this is a flip side or a good thing or bad thing, it just depends on, I guess, how you look at things. You may not have the same type of competition, though, in the winter as you once had from snowbirds coming in from Canada. So a lot of Canadians are changing their winter plans. At least they did for this past winter. We don't know what's going to happen next winter, but this past winter, a lot of Canadians decided not to come down and snowbird in the warmer climates of Arizona and Texas. I'll have to say that we as the United States are not making it easier for them either, because typically a snowbird would come down, I wouldn't say late October, maybe even a little earlier than that, and then they would stay till about April, and then they head back to Canada. Because I can tell you, I'm about to fly to Canada tomorrow, and it's still 33 degrees in Canada. So I feel like they probably wait till about April, maybe even late April, to return home. So that's well over a 30-day period. And the US has a new policy now starting April 11th for any Canadian that wants to come to the US and stay for more than 30 days will be required to register with the government and potentially be fingerprinted. Now, that might not be a big deal to me. I would do that. I mean, that's if needed to go to Canada and they wanted me to register and get fingerprinted, no big deal. I go to Mexico, we always got to fill out paperwork, telling them how long we're there for. But for some people, it might be like, well, we never had to do that before. And that could be enough to deter them from coming back in and be like, oh, they're going to make it difficult, even though it's not that difficult. But, that could be the mindset of somebody that has been coming down for years saying, well, this is new. This is BS now. We never had to do this before. I'll just spend my winter here in Canada. I'll stay home. I'll do a staycation. So maybe you won't be fighting campgrounds all that much if we reduce the amount of snowbirds. I don't have any numbers, Sean. I don't know if do you have any numbers of? Yeah,
No,
that's
I was just
something.
thinking about that.
I'll try to find a number percentage-wise of what the attendance was reduced to or by amount from snowbirds, 'cause that's what I would be interested in. I know the story that we have here, talked to, one retired Canadian resident. They typically head south in their RV, and they opted to stay home this year, and they cut all their trips short. But are they the exception? Was that how popular of a choice was this for people to stay home? My home base is here in Arizona. I feel like we still had a lot of RVers down here in our RV parks. I don't know if I really noticed it too much, but I will say, now that I think about it, Sean, I like my local co-op. They did say that they had a more than unusual slow winter season. So there could be something to that.
Yeah.
And they did fear that once the snowbirds did return back home, that they were going to really feel the struggle a little bit more. But they did say that they had a very soft winter, and it could have been maybe for this reason that maybe there were not as many snowbirds down here this year. I know when Sabrina and I first started RVing and we were full time, and Sean, you probably experienced this too. For us, winter was our favorite time to camp because it was pretty easy. Well, where we were camping anyway. We were in Erie, PA. We were always in the worst places, but we would have campgrounds to ourselves. Nobody's on travel from Canada and then RV in Chicago. You got this very similar weather, and that's where Sabrina and I would be. But we always loved the winter camping because we could go anywhere. We didn't need reservations for anything. We could just pop into any campground, and they always had availability for us. We might be going right back to that, which was really nice. It was always my favorite time to camp, was the off, I guess you could put in quotes, off season.
When we first started, even in the winter time, we would go to places like Tucson
Mm.
and places like that. It still wasn't terrible to get reservations, but there were a lot of snowbirds there. There were a lot of snowbirds.
Were you staying at that KOA
Yeah,
in Tucson? Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of snowbirds camp there throughout the
yeah,
winter. I feel like that whole population in the wintertime is snowbirds.
yeah.
It's a nice campground. If you're gonna be somewhere for months and months, that's a great location to be in. You got your pools, your hot tubs, your restaurant. It's a great location to be snowbirding in.
Kenny, you found an article about Camping World buying Lazy Days?
Yeah, this totally caught me off guard. So the article headline said that Camping World purchased 5 Lazy Days locations. And it just had me wondering. I was like, is Lazy Days going out of business? Is that why they're selling? I had no idea. It caught me off guard. I didn't hear about this. Apparently, this has been in the works for a little bit. I think since October. So it caught me off guard. And Lazy Days is a pretty well known, established RV dealership across the country. So it really caught me off guard. Apparently, Lazy Days wanted to sell Camping World 7 locations. And Camping World took a look at these 7 locations and only accepted 5 of them. They said they didn't want the other 2. Apparently, they are not selling their entire franchise. They're not selling all of their locations. It's just revamping, I guess, the Lazy Days name. They're taking a step back. They're making some changes in the company, but they are indeed not going out of business like I first assumed they were. They're even making some changes to branding. So they're changing logos, they're changing colors, they're changing the font of their name. I'm gonna add a photo into the show notes so that you'll be able to recognize them now because yeah, their colors are totally different. Their imaging looks completely different to me. It's like a hazy sunset or maybe a hazy sunrise. Their colors are now orange and white. I'm not sure what sparked. I couldn't find anything that said, well, this was happening, so they need to make this change. I couldn't find any reasons for all this change. I'm happy to say that they are not completely going out of business. They're just making some big, big changes, downsizing a little bit. I guess that's good for Camping World. I'm sure Camping World probably got a good price on these 5 dealers.
We bought our first RV at Lazy Days in Tampa, Florida, and it was a great experience. We really enjoyed that dealership and how they treated us, and they had a campground there where you could stay for a couple days. And we went back to that campground a couple times. I'm pretty sure they closed the campground part, but the dealership was still there, and it was massive, massive dealership. And I hope they stick around.
Yeah, I hope the Lazy Days doesn't go anywhere. I agree with Sean, and I think the fact that a lot of the Lazy Days do have a campground, I always thought that was a pretty nice feature that you could purchase and then not even get too far away and kinda stay on property and maybe do, like, a little shakedown, check out your systems, run tests, make sure everything's okay before you leave the area. Yeah, I think I like the Lazy Days experience of having that campground, typically attached to their dealerships. I always thought that was a great idea.
And then the last thing we have is a campground to highlight.
Yeah, I wanted to end on a positive note. We've been talking this whole time about snowbirding and the end of the season, which means we're getting ready for the new camping season, the camping season of 2025. I feel like spring is really when things start to pick up as far as traffic, campgrounds, the national parks. This is third time now is going into the camping season. All the shows are starting back up again. I just wanted to highlight on a good note that CampSpot, which is North America's leading campground booking platform, they do a big award ceremony. That's not the right word for it, but they award different campgrounds and different categories awards for being the best in what they do. And they have a list of about 10 different campgrounds and different categories, but I just wanted to highlight their number one pick for the United States, which was the Verde Ranch RV Resort in Verde, Arizona. Out of all the campgrounds, they've chosen this campground as being the best campground in the US for 2025. It's an Arizona based resort, obviously, here in Verde, Arizona. There's trails, there's the Verde River that goes by it. It just offers a lot for anybody that enjoys RVing or just any outdoor enthusiast. With the river being there, it's probably just a great place to kind of relax. So I looked up the campground a little bit because I didn't know anything about it. I never heard of it before. And they do have 4.6 stars on Google with 908 reviews. So that's a pretty good rating. A little bit about the campground itself or the RV resort itself: 389 full hookups with a 50 amp service. They have a mixture of back in and pull through sites. And the thing that really caught my eye is I don't typically see this too often. They offer a weekly rate. I feel like most campgrounds, you have to stay a month before you get any type of discount on your stay. But this campground or this RV resort offers a 25% discount compared to their nightly rate when you book for 1 week at a time. So I thought that was really nice because like I said, I don't typically see weekly rates at campgrounds. I think that's kind of a rarity. The other thing that kind of caught my eye is that all the amenities that they have here at this campground, they got
There's a
golf
lot.
cart. There's a lot. Yeah, golf cart rentals. They have you can even rent a picnic table. They have a business center, a clubhouse. You got your laundry, a heated pool, a pickleball court. I don't know if any of you have tried pickleball, but it's a lot of fun. But I think it's cool that they got a pickleball court right on property. Arcade, a splash pad, a canine corner, which is a dog park, and a fitness center. I feel like a fitness center always to me at a campground is like luxury because you don't see fitness centers at campgrounds too often. So I thought that was pretty cool. They got walking trails right on property and they have access to the river. I didn't see anything about renting kayaks or anything like that, but if you own your own boating, you have access right to the river from the campground, and that's a nice little perk too.
And if you have kids, that sluice mining for gemstones, kids always love that. And they have the sluice mining there. The campground we stayed at here when we were looking for a place to purchase, they had that sluice mining as well. And kids were always out there dumping the
It looks
sand
fun.
into the sluice. Yeah.
It does look like it looks like a lot of fun even to me at 50 years old. But yeah, so I know I'm gonna put this on my list, Verde Ranch RV Resort in Verde, Arizona, as a place to check out. I'm curious to see what all the hype is about that camp spot. Picked it as their number one. I mean, that's a pretty high number one in all of the US. I've stayed at
Yeah, I
some
was going to
really
say
nice
that
RV
there's a
parks.
lot of nice campgrounds.
Yeah, so they really got my attention with this. So I definitely want to check it out. But I think that's the show for today. And of course, we want to thank you for listening. But before you go, could you please leave us a review or a rating on your favorite podcast platform? These reviews and ratings help the show get ranked and for us to find a larger audience. As always, we want to thank our sponsor, Battleborn Batteries. I've been using them a lot recently in my RV travels, and they make everywhere I go in my RV as if I'm plugged into 30 amp service, allowing me to stop and sleep anywhere I choose throughout the night. Take care, everybody. Safe travels, and we will be back in 2 more weeks.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop in replacement for traditional lead acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com. With the complexity of all the systems in an RV, I always say it's not if something's going to break, but a matter of when is something going to break. That is why I think an extended warranty for RVs is so important. We first interviewed wholesale warranties back in 2019 and immediately became impressed with how their policies worked, such as you can take your RV to any licensed repair shop, including mobile repairs. They also have personalized service plans, making sure you are getting the right policy for your needs. And if you think your RV is too old for a policy, you might be surprised to hear that RVs up to 20 years old can still be approved for a policy. That is more age lenient than most RV parks I've stayed at. Go to wholesalewarranties.com/beyond the wheel or click the link down below in our show notes to get your free quote today.